Ladies, let's get something straight. Being a smart woman in today's world isn't about having all the answers. It's about having the right mindset, the right standards, and the right tools to navigate your life with clarity and confidence. Being a smart woman is not just about being intellectually sharp or academically successful. It's about understanding how to apply your strengths, awareness, and emotional intelligence in the real world. It's knowing how to position yourself with clarity and confidence in every area of your life, your relationships, your career, your social interactions, and your self-perception. A smart woman is strategic. She doesn't just go with the flow. She evaluates the current, decides whether it's going in the direction she wants, and if not, she creates her own path. We often confuse being smart with being book smart or highly educated. While education is valuable, real-world intelligence is measured by your ability to make sound decisions, read situations accurately, and navigate challenges without losing your center. It's how you respond when things don't go your way. It's how you carry yourself when no one's clapping for you. It's the quiet strength behind your no and the clarity behind your yes. In a world that often pulls at women to either be agreeable or aggressive, being smart is about finding the middle ground, being assertive without being harsh, being compassionate without being a doormat, and being open without being naive. Smart women think critically. They ask the right questions, not just of others, but of themselves. Why am I staying in this situation? Does this align with my values? Is this energy helping me grow, or is it holding me back? It's not enough to be emotional. You must learn to be emotionally intelligent. That means knowing the difference between reacting and responding. Smart women don't act on impulse. They take a beat. They process. They observe, because every action sends a message, and they're intentional about what message they're sending. They also understand social dynamics. In relationships, for example, a smart woman knows when someone is interested and when someone is just keeping her around for convenience. She doesn't overinvest in confusion. She doesn't try to win someone over. She doesn't compete for attention or chase validation because she's already validated herself. That's not arrogance, that's self-awareness. And it's built through experience, reflection, and a willingness to learn from her mistakes instead of repeating them. This intelligence shows up in her professional life too. A smart woman doesn't wait to be told she deserves more. She asks for it. She knows her value, and she backs it up with action. She's not afraid to speak up in meetings or advocate for her ideas. She also knows when silence is more powerful than words, when walking away is more powerful than staying, and when patience is more powerful than instant gratification. Being smart also means thinking long-term. A smart woman doesn't sacrifice her future for short-term comfort. She doesn't settle for relationships that drain her, jobs that underpay her, or habits that sabotage her. She plays the long game. She's willing to be uncomfortable now to build a version of her life that aligns with her true potential. And perhaps most importantly, she's not performative. She's not trying to impress anyone. She's not obsessed with being liked by everyone. She's focused on being respected by the right people and, most importantly, by herself. That means doing what's right for her, even when it's hard, even when it's lonely, and even when it goes against what others expect of her. All of this isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. Through clarity, through decisions, through self-reflection. Being smart is about becoming. And the more you learn how to understand yourself, protect your peace, and take intentional steps forward, the more you start showing up as a woman who doesn't just react to life. She shapes it. It's not about perfection. It's about awareness. It's about being strategic with your energy, intentional with your time, and firm in your boundaries. That's what makes you a smart woman. Not the title, not the resume, not the approval of others, but your ability to lead yourself powerfully and unapologetically through any room, any relationship, and any reality you choose to create. Boundaries are often misunderstood. Some people hear the word and immediately associate it with being cold, distant, or unapproachable. But in reality, boundaries are the most powerful expression of self-respect and emotional maturity. They are not about keeping people out. They're about deciding who, what, and how things get in. A smart woman understands this deeply. She knows that setting boundaries isn't about punishment, it's about protection of her energy, her time, her peace, and her self-worth. You teach people that your time is up for grabs, your emotions are negotiable, and your needs come second. Without clear boundaries, you begin to shrink. You overextend. You give until you're empty and wonder why you feel resentful, exhausted, or unappreciated. But that's not the fault of others. It's the consequence of not defining your limits. A smart woman recognizes this early and learns to draw the line before she's forced to. The shift happens when you realize that boundaries are a form of clarity. They say, this is what I will accept, and this is what I won't. And there's no need for anger or drama when you communicate them. You don't have to shout or over-explain. You simply stand firm. Because the people meant for your life will respect those boundaries, and the ones who don't, they were only benefiting from your lack of them. What makes boundaries powerful isn't just that you set them, but that you enforce them. Many people say things like, I'm not okay with this, or that hurt me, but then continue to allow the behavior. A smart woman doesn't just speak her limits, she follows through. If someone repeatedly violates her boundary, she doesn't keep hoping they'll change. She changes the dynamic. That might mean creating distance, ending a relationship, or removing herself from environments that no longer support her growth. Enforcing boundaries can feel uncomfortable, especially if you're used to being the peacemaker or the one who avoids conflict. You may feel guilty. You may worry about upsetting others. But ask yourself this: who is protecting you when you're so busy protecting everyone else's comfort? A smart woman knows that her responsibility is not to keep everyone happy, it's to keep herself whole. Boundaries don't make you selfish, they make you self-aware. And there's a major difference. When you know your capacity, emotionally, mentally, physically, you're able to give from a full place, not an empty one. You're able to show up in your relationships with authenticity because you're not secretly drained or resentful. You're not saying yes out of guilt or fear. You're saying it because you genuinely want to. That's the beauty of boundaries. They create room for genuine connection, not obligation-based performance. Boundaries also allow you to filter people. When you have clear standards and limits, people will reveal themselves very quickly. Some will step up, adjust, and respect you more for being direct. Others will get defensive, call you difficult, or disappear. And that's okay, because the goal isn't to keep everyone. It's to keep the right ones, the people who honor your space, your energy, and your truth. This is especially critical. A smart woman doesn't lose herself in someone else's chaos. She doesn't tolerate mixed signals, emotional manipulation, or disrespect disguised as just the way I am. She communicates her needs clearly, and if those needs are consistently unmet, she doesn't beg for change. She makes decisions based on reality, not potential. The same principle applies in friendships and work environments. You get to decide how much access people have to you. You get to decide what kind of behavior is acceptable, and you don't have to justify that to anyone. Boundaries don't require permission, they require conviction. Boundaries are a sign that you're taking yourself seriously, that you value your energy, your peace, and your time enough to protect it, that you're no longer available for chaos disguised as connection or obligation disguised as loyalty. A smart woman doesn't need to explain that. She lives it calmly, consistently, and unapologetically. Being selective is not about being picky, arrogant, or judgmental. It's about having clarity. It's about knowing who you are, what you want, and what aligns with your values, energy, and future. A smart woman doesn't make herself overly available just to be seen, accepted, or chosen. She knows that her time, attention, and emotional energy are valuable, and she treats them as such. She doesn't move through life with a scarcity mindset, believing she has to say yes to everything or everyone out of fear that something better won't come along. Instead, she moves from a place of abundance, of self-respect and internal security. This shows up in a powerful way. A smart woman doesn't chase. She doesn't overanalyze someone's inconsistency or try to decode mixed signals. She doesn't waste time trying to convince someone of her worth. If someone is unsure about her, she sees that as clarity, not confusion. She doesn't hang around hoping they'll see the light. She walks away with grace, not bitterness, because she knows the right person won't need convincing. She trusts that when she shows up as her full self, the right connections will naturally gravitate toward her, and the wrong ones will fall away without force. Being selective also means being intentional. It means paying attention to how you feel around someone, not just how they look or what they say. Are you at ease, or are you constantly questioning yourself? Do you feel seen, heard, and respected, or are you constantly justifying your needs? A smart woman doesn't ignore red flags because of loneliness or temporary chemistry. She knows that short-term attraction should never outweigh long-term peace. She's willing to delay gratification in order to avoid unnecessary drama later. Same principle applies. She doesn't keep people around just because of history or shared experiences from the past. She evaluates whether that connection still aligns with who she's becoming. She notices how people show up when she needs support. She pays attention to whether the relationship is reciprocal or one-sided. And if she finds herself constantly overgiving, over-explaining, or over-functioning, she doesn't internalize it as a flaw. She adjusts her access. She narrows the circle. She becomes more intentional with her yes. Being selective looks like aligning with opportunities that reflect your values and your growth, not just your paycheck. A smart woman doesn't say yes to every job, collaboration, or request simply because it's available. She thinks about her long-term goals. She asks herself, does this align with where I want to go? Will this drain me or develop me? She's not afraid to turn things down, even when they look good on the surface, if they don't feel right in her gut, because she's no longer moved by external applause. She's driven by internal alignment. This kind of self-awareness and intentionality might intimidate some people. Some may label you as too much or too distant. Let them. A smart woman knows that her job isn't to shrink to fit into someone else's comfort zone. Her job is to stay rooted in her truth, even if it means being misunderstood by those who haven't done the same inner work. What sets a smart woman apart is not that she's perfect, but that she's purposeful. She's not in a hurry to be chosen because she's already chosen herself. She doesn't let pressure, people, or temporary feelings dictate her decisions. She knows what she brings, and she's not afraid to wait for what matches it. She trusts herself enough to know that being selective doesn't mean missing out. It means making room for what truly deserves a place in her life. She understands this. Your value doesn't decrease based on who doesn't see it. So she doesn't lower her standards to be more liked. She raises her energy and lets the right people rise to meet it. That's the quiet confidence of a woman who knows who she is and refuses to settle for anything less. Confidence is often misunderstood. People think it's about being loud, bold, or always having the last word. But true confidence isn't about volume, it's about groundedness. It's about being centered in who you are, even when things around you are uncertain. A smart woman understands that confidence is not something you are born with, it's something you build. And she knows that it's not built in comfort, but in action. Confidence comes from doing the hard things. It comes from making decisions that stretch you, from showing up even when you're scared, and from keeping promises to yourself. A smart woman knows that the foundation of her confidence is built in private, not in public. It's in the mornings she gets up and works on her goals, even when no one's watching. It's in the conversations she has with herself when she's doubting her path but chooses to move forward anyway. It's in how she responds when something doesn't go as planned. And instead of falling apart, she asks, "What now?" and keeps going. She doesn't wait to feel confident before taking action. She takes action to build confidence. That's the difference. She knows that fear and doubt are part of the process, but she doesn't let them control her. She feels the fear, but still takes the step. She hears the doubt, but still applies, still speaks, still shows up. Because every time she proves to herself that she can move through fear, her confidence expands. This kind of confidence isn't about perfection. In fact, it grows the most when things don't go smoothly, when she's rejected, challenged, or stretched in ways she didn't expect. Those are the moments that shape her. A smart woman doesn't crumble in failure. She uses it. She looks at what happened, learns from it, and grows. She knows that confidence is a byproduct of experience, especially the uncomfortable kind. It also comes from alignment. When your actions match your values, you feel powerful. When you're living in integrity, saying what you mean, doing what you say, and standing up for what you believe, you start to trust yourself. And that self-trust is the root of true confidence. It means you don't need constant validation from others because you've already validated yourself. You're not waiting for someone to approve your choices. You've already made peace with them. You're not trying to perform. You're just being real. And that kind of authenticity is magnetic. A smart woman also knows that confidence isn't about being right all the time. It's about being secure enough to be wrong without losing your sense of self. She's not afraid to ask questions, to say, I don't know, or to admit when she's made a mistake. Because her self-worth isn't tied to always getting it perfect. It's tied to her willingness to learn, adapt, and grow. This confidence shows up in the way she carries herself. She doesn't compete or compare. She compliments others without shrinking herself. She celebrates other women's wins without questioning her own timeline. She walks into a room without needing to dominate it because she knows she belongs, even in silence. Her energy speaks louder than her words ever could. This inner strength is quiet but unmistakable. It doesn't demand attention, it commands respect. And it's not about being unshakable. It's about being resilient. A smart woman knows that confidence is not about never falling down. It's about knowing that she can rise every single time. She also understands the importance of doing things that build her belief in herself. That might mean setting small goals and following through. It might mean pushing herself to speak in front of others. It might mean ending a relationship that no longer honors her worth. Every choice she makes that aligns with her best self reinforces the message, I can trust me. That is the foundation of unshakable confidence. A smart woman knows that confidence doesn't come from external praise. It comes from showing up for yourself, especially when it's hard. It comes from being kind to yourself while still holding yourself accountable. It comes from choosing growth over comfort, truth over approval, and progress over perfection. That kind of confidence doesn't fade. It's not seasonal. It's built for life. And once you have it, you carry it into every room, every relationship, and every challenge. Not because you know everything will go your way, but because you trust that you will show up no matter what. Emotional discipline is one of the most underrated, yet most powerful traits a smart woman can develop. While the world often tells us to follow our heart or trust our feelings, a woman who truly understands herself knows that emotions are important, but they're not always accurate. She doesn't ignore her feelings, but she doesn't let them run her life either. She learns to feel everything deeply, but respond wisely. There is strength in being in tune with your emotions, but there is even greater power in learning how to manage them. Emotional discipline means knowing when to pause, when to speak, and when to walk away. It's about responding instead of reacting. It's about being able to sit with discomfort without immediately trying to escape it. A smart woman understands that feelings are messengers. They're trying to tell her something, but it's her job to interpret them, not blindly obey them. This discipline starts with awareness. Before you can manage your emotions, you have to understand them. What triggers you? What situations cause you to spiral or shut down? What patterns do you keep repeating in relationships or in your own thinking? A smart woman doesn't shy away from these questions. She leans into them, not to judge herself, but to understand herself better. Because once you know the root of your reactions, you can begin to take back control. She knows that emotional discipline is not about suppression, it's about regulation. It's not pretending you're okay when you're not. It's about acknowledging your feelings while choosing not to let them dictate your actions in ways you'll regret. When she's hurt, she gives herself space to process instead of lashing out. When she's angry, she takes a breath before responding. When she's overwhelmed, she doesn't numb herself, she grounds herself. This kind of emotional self-control doesn't come overnight, it's a practice. But every time she chooses her response, instead of being driven by impulse, she becomes stronger. Emotional discipline is what protects her from emotional chaos. She doesn't argue to be right, she communicates to be understood. She doesn't let temporary feelings ruin long-term connections, but she also doesn't stay in situations where she's constantly being triggered, dismissed, or disrespected. She's not driven by emotional highs or addicted to drama. She values peace over intensity, stability over confusion. She knows love isn't just about chemistry, it's about compatibility, consistency, and emotional maturity. She also applies this discipline to how she speaks to herself. When the inner critic shows up, and it always does, she doesn't let it spiral into self-doubt or self-sabotage. She notices it, challenges it, and replaces it with truth. She doesn't allow one bad moment to define her entire identity. She might feel fear, insecurity, or shame, but she doesn't live there. She knows how to pull herself back, not because she's emotionless, but because she's emotionally intelligent. This trait is invaluable. Emotional discipline allows her to stay composed under pressure, to have difficult conversations without losing her cool, and to remain professional even when others are being reactive. She doesn't allow her mood to dictate her performance. She can navigate criticism without crumbling and lead with empathy without losing authority. This balance makes her trustworthy, respected, and impactful. She doesn't confuse emotional discipline with emotional distance. She's not cold, she's calm. She's not detached, she's intentional. She can be vulnerable and still have boundaries. She can express emotion and still maintain control. That balance is what sets her apart. She understands that maturity isn't about not feeling. There will always be moments that test her patience, her composure, and her emotional capacity. But instead of letting those moments define her, she uses them as opportunities to practice control, growth, and self-leadership. That's the essence of emotional discipline. And that's what makes her not just strong, but wise. She doesn't let emotions drive the car, but she doesn't lock them in the trunk either. She lets them ride in the passenger seat. Acknowledged, respected, but not in charge, because she knows where she's going. And she's committed to getting there with clarity, grace, and power. That's what emotional discipline looks like. And it's one of the most important traits that separates a reactive woman from a truly smart one.